Welcome to Serves You Right. This is Andrew, and I'm glad you can make it. If you are a server, a bartender, back house warrior, this is the spot for you. Follow me as we try and work out one fundamental question: whether or not you can truly be happy working in the service industry. With everything involved in working in service, the alcohol, late nights, low wages, restaurants and bars offer a very strange blend of challenge and opportunity to a large, underserviced portion of the population. Are they flawed and ugly in some ways? Absolutely. The service industry does also serve a deep and fundamental human need, though. That drive for fast, flexible work environments, the thrill of quick money, and the appeal of the slightly dangerous. Again, my name is Andrew, and I've worked in restaurants and bars for about 20 years now. I've done everything from dishwashing and bar backing all the way to being a general manager. This is my record of what I've learned, imperfectly, slowly, painfully, and hopefully you find that interesting and you have an easier time in it than I did. All right, let's do it. All right, today we have a fun one. Shane Alexander. Shane Alexander is a gentleman, he's near and dear to my heart. Shane and I worked together at Santa Fe, Farol. Oh man, the oldest bar, I think, in Santa Fe, if not the US. There was a bullet hole in the bar, intentionally left in from back in the heyday of Santa Fe. So me and Shane joined after it switched hands and fell into the ownership of a couple of people you'll hear us talk about, Max and Frida and Rich. Rich has since passed away, and I do hear that the location has changed ownership, but we definitely get to talk about the fun times, the renovation. He has, hands down, some of the best tasting food I have ever tried in my life. We also, during that whole process, straight partied it up the whole time. The local bar in Santa Fe, the Matador, definitely saw us shut it down a couple of times. There was excess to excess. I did end up leaving El Farol over some disagreements with ownership and eventually moved away from the state entirely. Shane ended up leaving about a year after I did. So this is the first really in-depth conversation we've been able to have since we worked together. We've had the odd call here and there, and I got to come by and see his house and hang out with his kids once, but nothing in-depth like this. So this is really, really a pleasure for me. You know, I love this man dearly. I hope you stick out till the end. We definitely get to hear Shane talk about a lot of really personal, really powerful things. I, expect to hear some of the dangers of success, some of what the drive for success can do to you. Expect to hear what working 100 hours plus a week will do to you, and some of our just reminiscing and some of our just discussing what the loved ones in our lives do for us and what they mean for us. And expect to hear a couple of vulnerable, honest human beings sharing some struggles. So, yeah, without much ado, let's just get into this. All right, serves you right. Here we go. Oh, just a quick note. We do jump in quite in the middle of our conversation. Me and Shane just kind of started talking, no introductions, and that's how we rolled. All right, hope you enjoy.
Just after a while, I was chatting to him. Roughly, it always stuck with me as my rep from Cisco, and we were just talking about me needing to kind of leave restaurants in general, just not really work in the kitchen anymore. And he was like, "Well, Cisco's looking if you're keen to come over and work here. I'm sure you'd be great." So he kind of helped spearhead that. And I'd initially offered myself, I'd taken another job with Bill at Just the Best to work in the warehouse, be like his warehouse supervisor almost, and kind of work with him and learn that. That didn't work out.
Again? I'm sorry.
Just the Best produce.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, so I started working for Bull. That kind of didn't work out, and I let Max know like, hey, I'm committed to this thing first. If this doesn't work out, I'll give Cisco a shot. But for now, I gotta wait. Anyway, so yeah, just the best didn't work out, and so I took a job with Cisco and just started to get into sales.
When was that?
That was in September of 2023, I think.
Okay. So you've been doing it for a solid 2 years,
Yeah, yeah,
more or less. Yeah. Is it different?
it is. It
Yeah.
is. It's very different. It was actually in the beginning. It was a little like when 4 or 5 o'clock rolls around, like your body knows that it should be kicking into like stress mode because service is coming. Like there
Yeah.
should be like I'm not doing anything. I should have done something. What fires do I have to anticipate for? What fires are happening currently?
Like
So the body was
Shane, it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday. What are you doing?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So the natural stress processes uh the nervous system would kind of start to crunch up
Mm.
in the evenings just being at home. But that didn't take too long to get over. Really
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, that's good. Um, and then so we just sort of jumped into that. I think it would be helpful. Can you kind of tell your side of how me and you ended up working together? And I'll
So
try and fill in some gaps
there
where,
we go.
yeah.
So yeah, it was I don't even remember the date. I know it was May. I just got done with Las Campanas. I was executive sous chef there, taking a job as the head chef at Farol. It was supposed to be a month-long construction process, and we started to get everybody on board, and it ended up being at least a 3-month process. But I think that was kind of beneficial for us because we had some time to continue to work and develop on menus and drinks and make sure things were going to work well uh, as far as pairings were concerned. But yeah, I'd come on as the head chef. Uh, Max had hired you as like the bar manager or lead bartender. Um, yeah, and I just remember meeting you at Alfarol, and
Yeah.
it was all a lot of fun. Everything was fresh and new and exciting.
It was something. Yeah. I still remember. So it'll be interesting kind of to explore from my side. So you know my wife. We just gotten married. She said hi, by the way. She
Cool.
made me promise to remember to say that. Um, and so I was working at Coyote, and I heard that this gentleman named Rich was looking for someone to renovate the bar program at El Farol,
Mm,
and I was not of the age group that would go to El Farol.
yeah,
So I finally reluctantly kind of agreed to meet with him. Uh,
that's right.
he sold me on the whole thing, and I still was hesitant, and actually was the one that got me to sign on. And so I left Coyote right in the middle of the summer. I came over. It was right in, I think we had 2 months of construction left, if
Yeah,
I remember, not realizing that we were not going to be open for that long.
yeah. Well, I think everybody was assuming that it was going to be a quick process. I do remember those conversations with Max where, I think a lot of the construction definitely moved quicker because there were things that he was doing to help the general contractor as the owner just to get things done and do some stuff on the weekends to just move the process along. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that was a wild time. So
it was.
I remember that time. 'Cause I don't know if me and you've ever actually really talked about this, but in that process of the construction, not working my regular service jobs and not having that extra pool of my attention and time, I definitely got myself into some troubles.
Hmm.
I was definitely drinking more than I probably should have been,
Yeah,
which, you get used to working in the service industry. You only really have like an hour after work where you can go to the bar before it closes down.
yeah, and
And all of a
decompress.
sudden, I was 9 to 5 and evenings free.
Yes, there were a whole lot more hours.
Yes. The hours you
Yes.
work now, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, if you went and sat at Boxcar after work, you could get a good 6, 7 hour drinking session in before they kick you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know we timed it. No. No. Uh, yeah, so we got through that construction process, which was a little bit wild. Opened up. Farol was interesting. It was definitely an experience. I feel like I learned a lot. I definitely I'm very grateful for it, but
hmm
yeah, it was always kind of weird. Just from my perspective. I don't know.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And especially the best of the conversations that we had initially in the beginning, bringing everybody on, and then the actual processes that happened once the restaurant had opened. Come on, develop my food program. It's going to be yours. And then I develop it and it's not. For you, come on, develop the bar program. It's going to be yours. You do it and then it's not. Right? Like there was it seemed like there would be a whole lot more hands off and general steering from a 30,000 foot view, and it became a very ground to 10,000 foot view management, micromanagement of a menu, bar program, wines.
Yeah. That's a very gentle way of putting it, I think. I I feel like again, I want to express the gratitude there because I think had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have been admitted to the advanced SOM test or any of that.
Yes.
But I feel like going through that experience definitely taught me, and that's my dog, so he's excited.
There we go.
Taught me that if I were to ever open a restaurant again, I'd want to get more things in writing than I did,
Yes.
or
Yes.
just insist on more clarity than the handshake deals that are
Well, there
so
was
yeah.
always something that Sid had tried to push me for, right? Was get more in writing, get more in writing, because I think, also a lot too trusting, just that you could do a deal off a handshake and expect that somebody would follow through with it, right?
Yeah.
Um, there was some compensation that I had signed into as the chef that I would be allotted at the end of a year if I could stick through certain costs, right?
Mhm.
But not everything. Again, wanting the best of everything, but having it at the cost of a cheaper product
Mhm.
on the menu, right, doesn't lend itself towards a great food cost. So, you know, I think from anything from the amount of employment to what you'll be able to have your hands on in writing, and then also specifics on any additional compensation, I think is always good for any chef to have, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm responsible for food cost, at what level, who am I responsible for, what grounds are there? It's when you run in Farol was just a single facet restaurant, and if you're going to get into anything else, like a bigger resort, we have multi facets, can you bonus off of all of it? Can you bonus off of just sections of it? If one hits it, can you still make some compensation? I think that's a better way to go rather than on the whole, right? If I can hit some metrics, can I still get additional compensation rather than having to hit everything perfect all the time?
Yeah. Because I remember that time. I remember, working with you, and there's some shifts that I remember, you could see it just like in your face, the weight of everything
Mm-hmm.
crushing down on you.
There's a lot of
I was
pressure.
looking for a
Yeah.
better adjective there, but crushing down on you seemed
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to be able to do a good job, right? It was my first chef gig, like proper chef gig. And I was responsible for a lot. I needed to make sure it worked properly. We didn't have a lot of time allotted. Uh, once the kitchen really could open and once we got all of our permits, there really wasn't a lot of playtime to develop cooks. And so you have to balance that. You're not allowed any overtime. So you got to balance being able to have them get the experience, but the restaurant still has to operate. It's still got to be clean, right? And so I'd let dishwashers go at appropriate times, but mats still needed to be washed. So I'm stuck there until 1 o'clock in the morning washing mats, right? Scrubbing walls, cleaning dishwashers. As they get a hold of the things that I've already taught them now, more time opens up because they get more efficient. So now I can start adding additional training stuff to them. And the same would happen with cooks, right? Doing hoods, things like that. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure to make sure people were happy with the food. Round one in Chile, I think there's a lot of big expectation around it. Yeah.
So when did you leave Farol?
It was probably I was there for about 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. And then you went to another spot, right? I'm sorry, my remembrance of where you went after is kind of spotty.
So I went to Boxcar. I'd spoken to Tate and Sylvia, and they were going to develop some more stuff in Santa Fe. And so I'd taken that gig in the hopes of being able to have other restaurant opportunities open up as well, and be able to start learning how to manage multi-restaurant operations. But then that didn't really work out. They had some stuff kind of fall through for them in that interim. They're working on stuff now, and some stuff is moving pretty well for them now. But it just wasn't at the time, and it just wasn't a great fit. So from there, I went to at a chef friend of mine who had fallen ill and needed to take some time off, but she needed to be able to still have the kitchen operate. And so she asked me to come on as a sous chef just to help her while she was on FMLA, like 3.5 months, and then just kind of see where it went from there. And that was at a member club, golf club, Quail Run. So I was there for a little bit. Small club.
Yeah. That's the last time I checked in with you where you were working before we talked recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess after that was when you joined from the distribution side.
No, so after that, so I don't know if you ever remember Peter O'Brien. He was my food and beverage director at the Club of Las Campanas. And he went from food and beverage director back because he was a chef before, restaurant owner, chef, then food and beverage director. And then he got back into kitchens and cooking at the Inn of Anasazi. And then he got a job as executive chef at Bishop's Lodge, or Burge had kind of taken it over to run it. And he was looking for a sous chef. And so we had reconnected, and he had said to me, hey, do you want to come over and apply and be my sous? And so I'd taken that job on. And that was COVID was kind of it was in like the middle towards the end of COVID, kind of. There was still a lot of restrictions. Our first Thanksgiving, everything was done to go. One, because the property wasn't done yet. We couldn't open up. We had kitchen permits, but not permits to be able to put people in rooms. And again, there was COVID, all that jazz. So we had put together a pretty good to-go program for Thanksgiving. That was a lot of fun to see how you could sort of level up or really make to-go foods look real nice. A lot of thought went into them. There were a lot of menus and cards and things that came with it. It was very boutique-y. It was really nice. It was really cool to do. And so we'd done that. And then, I started to work for Burge, and they'd let Pete go probably 2 weeks before opening, the grand opening of the resort. And so then that was a whole different level of stress, right? And because now it was a resort kitchen, high-end resort, auberge, a lot of expectation there too. And the hours that I was working there, again, just the amount of stress. And I think the incessant need to want to please everybody and to do such a great job. I didn't really know how to let a lot of things go in the kitchen. I was very good at picking things up, I think, at the time. Instead of holding people accountable to finish their jobs, I would just be okay with having cooks in the kitchen. I pick things up. So I was averaging 100 hours a week.
You're a one-man band.
Yes, I was averaging 100 hours a week. We didn't have many employees. Again, you play the game of, who's going to show up for breakfast, right?
Yep.
And I had
there are only 168 hours in a week. How did you when were you sleeping?
There was 1 week I pulled over 130 hours in a week. So I would pull the normal 16 to 18, sometimes 19 hours a day, 20 hours a day in the kitchen. And I'd go home, sleep for a couple hours, come back, right? But on my 6th and 7th day, I'd pull a 24-hour shift. I'd then come home real quick, wake the kids up, take a shower, try and help my wife as best as I could to get them out the door to school, and then I'd go back for another 16 to 18 hour shift. And so I'd done that for multiple weeks on end. And HR eventually caught wind of it, and they sat me down and said, You're not doing that anymore. You can't. It's physically dangerous for you to not sleep.
Oh yeah.
And they definitely wanted me to have as much of a work-life balance as possible. But when you're opening up a resort and you don't have people to staff it, and they need to open up other outlets, and they have pressure to open up outlets, you got to pick one or the other, right? You can either give me time off and hold off on outlets, or you can open up outlets. Then you got to give me people, So
Yeah. I wonder, because I hear a lot of myself in what you're saying too. Um, this desire, I want to do a job. I want to do it well.
yes,
And I don't want the thing to have my name on it if it's going to be shit.
yes,
But I also, I fear that impulse that I have to go and do it myself. And yeah, I think
because you
we're
get
very similar in that regard.
yeah, because you get to a point. I think I had to start to realize that I'd been through the processes I'd been through, and made the mistakes that I'd made, and those processes and mistakes put me in a position. Again, my drive, I think, was a part of it too. But you get to a point where you've had your opportunity to make all your mistakes to get to the point that you're at to be able to do what you can do now, right?
Mhm.
I didn't understand at the point I was at the time that me allowing those younger cooks to go through those same processes was going to benefit them, right? I was almost helicopter parenting my cooks. I was hovering over them. I was not giving them the opportunity to make mistakes. I think it's better to let them make the mistakes correct afterwards, right?
Mhm.
But again, at the same time, you need a proper foundation crew to be able to allow that to happen as well, right? You got to be set up for success, because service still has to happen. So they have to still make mistakes within reason, right? It can't be a mistake that affects the guest. It can be a mistake, but then you have to pivot and still take care of the guest.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. But I
but
think you probably are on the same vein as me. I have difficulty seeing, the drink is the drink that's created incorrectly is one thing. The drink that takes an extra 2 minutes to get out because the bartender's new is
mhm,
another thing.
yeah,
But both mistakes grate at me, but one seems to be infinitely worse.
yes,
If you're just whacking moles, it's it's easy to just keep whacking moles and stay late,
yes.
work early, and yeah. It's the curse of people who do well at things, I think. You,
Yeah, and it
yeah.
is, when you really do want to do a great job, and you're driven by wanting things to almost be perfect every single time, right? Every time, this is the process, this is the procedure, this is what you got to follow. And I don't think that there's some of that culture here now in kitchens and in bars and in restaurants, because a lot of Americans have trained overseas with other chefs, right? People are coming back with more Michelin star experience. People are coming back with more of their culture where they're driven. Sorry, give me a second. I'll see you soon. I'll be there soon. Love you. Cheers. They're off to the baseball. I'll join them
Oh,
shortly.
awesome.
Um, yeah, and I think a lot of that culture starting, but I think a lot of it also sits better in the bigger cities, right? Austin, Chicago, New York. You have to learn how to be competitive in order to be able to get a basic job to survive, right? And
Mhm.
people are walking into restaurants because that's what they want to. That's the career they're in. Somewhere like Santa Fe, you got your guys who work their two jobs. If they don't nail it correctly every single time, they're not all that affected by it, right? They're not as driven, not as much. I don't think. I think there's some of them that still have pride in their work. Um, they still understand how things need to get done, and they're great workers in Santa Fe, right? Great workforce, but I think there is a difference in the guys who are culinary driven, or just restaurant
Horses.
based. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a difference between a server just trying to sell wine on the floor and someone who's actively trying to become a sommelier, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Santa Fe is a strange circle to square too.
Hmm.
The only place I've ever worked, there's such a like palpable imbalance between demand and supply, where
Yes.
every person in the entire United States and overseas wants to come to Santa Fe to see Santa Fe. And you have what? I don't even remember, 50,000 people that live there
Yeah. It's
in a
something
state
like
that
that.
gets millions of visitors every year.
Yeah. It's very tourist driven.
Yeah. And
Very
so,
tourist driven.
yeah, you work the job and you're on the floor and you get fired from El Farol and you walk down the street and you walk into the compound and get
Pick
job
up a
that
job.
day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
And
an
then
interesting time.
and I mean I'm sure that there are restaurants in Austin and New York and Chicago that you can do that in, right? But eventually if you want to do anything with yourself as a chef or as a manager and you want to build that career, eventually the word gets round. There's so many other people competing for that job. That's only going to go so far in a bigger city, right? In Santa Fe, you can burn a bridge and 2 years later go back to it, right? And burn it again and maybe 2 years later go back to it.
Well, that's because everyone's drunk and high in Santa Fe, but um, yeah. No, what did your family think about you when you were working like that?
Oh man, it was terrible. I remember the first, of course, having Dylan, Sid and I had conversations. She was a little worried for us to have a second kid because of my drinking problem and because I was pretty absent and because I wasn't as together as I thought I was right at home. I think I was a lot more focused on work and being able to do well there and not as focused on being able to do well at home. Right. Uh, and we spoke about having a second kid and that was her concern. And so then eventually we agreed, fine, Jameson doesn't need a sibling. I think it's important to have siblings if you can have siblings. Um, and so we decided to have another kid. And so that was kind of those conversations at least penetrated enough for me to start to realize, okay, I'm clearly not doing as well as I thought I was doing, right? And so now I got to try to figure out all my personal stuff when I don't know how to process stuff constructively and in a healthy way, right? While I'm drinking and while I'm putting drugs in my body and while I'm absent. But that was the start of it, right? And then Farol, Taylor, pastry chef.
Yeah,
I was
we should talk about her. I still miss her desserts. Just
She was good. She was really good. But she got to a point, I was hammered by like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. Like service had just started and I was hammered. I clearly had a rough week and that was how I was going to deal with it, was just drinking. And she pulled me aside. She was angry and she was like, get your shit together. Shane, seriously, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but get it together.
no, she didn't fuck around.
No. And so there was kind of like the second small realization that something had to change. But I think at that point, alcohol had already kind of, it had its bite on me, right? And so I get to Bishop's Lodge, and of course I'm working all these hours, and I'm way more absent in the house than I've ever been in my career. And so I start to talk to Sid about the necessity of me finding something else, right? And she's not opposed to me changing careers, but she's like, we got a family, you got to consider what you're going to do. Is it going to be worth it? What's going to happen? And so I'm trying to put feelers out. At that time, I was using not a lot of cocaine, but enough to try and keep me moving through the amount of hours that I was working in a week as well. And she had found that, so that became a point of contention. And it just got to a point where she just, we had a big fallout, and she just said, look, I need help. I know I need help. I know you need help. I don't know if you know you need help, but if we're going to have this work, I can't stay with you if you don't get help. She said, I'm tired of this. I can't do this anymore. So either you get help or we have to split and part ways.
Did you get help or?
I did. So, at that point, I was still working for Berge. They'd sent me to Austin to go help with one of their properties in Austin, Texas. And so that was a good, I think, small break for us because I was in Austin for a month and she was here. I was still getting paid. I was working a lot, but I didn't have the pressures of any of the household stuff that I needed to take care of. Sydney also didn't have to have the additional pressure of watching her husband, man, baby, who she had to look after. and so after months, she came out. We spent a week because her sister's out there. She spent a week out there. I had already actively found a therapist, started working with him. And then when I got home and things kind of started to move towards the way they were moving, working all these hours, it just wasn't sustainable, right? And we just decided it was best for me not to work in kitchens, at least in a managerial position anymore, right? And so I quit Auberge, called my father-in-law because winter was coming. We still hadn't figured out what I was going to do, but I just said to him, I was like, look, I know you need line cooks. I know I don't need any responsibility. So I'd be more than happy to be one of your cooks through the season. So I would drive up to Taos every Wednesday and I'd come back home every either Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, depending on how my shifts were scheduled. And that's all I did. I just got back into kitchens. I showed up, set up my station. I got on a drug called naltrexone, pharmaceutical drug. That kind of helped take off the sharp need to be able to drink. There were still times where I kind of stumbled a little bit, but that was like 3 years ago that I'd stopped. So understood I was an alcoholic, really knew I had to make a change, really knew I had to stop drinking, and just started working towards that. But I was also actively trying to find something else, right? What else can I do? What else am I good at? If I'm not going to be in kitchens anymore, I know what I need to be able to bring home financially. And what's that going to be? How's that going to look? Is it going to be sustainable? Is there growth potential in it, right?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I did not know that in part of your story. So
Yeah.
thanks for letting me know. I mean, I'm so thrilled to hear that you're doing better though.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, if I stood up, maybe one day if we do, maybe I can find a photo to send you and you could see I look like I'm almost at least 100 pounds bigger than I am now.
Yeah.
At least with the swelling and the water retention and the unhealthy, just not healthy chef, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm the exact same weight as I was when I was in that space of my life, but just not drinking, eating healthier, trying to exercise, playing hockey, getting more sleep. It's really made a huge difference.
It actually sounds like me and you had a very similar trajectory. We haven't really talked about any of the stuff I went through, but
No.
I got sick. So it's
Oh,
COVID. For whatever reason, so apparently I have Graves. If you look at my left eye, you can kind of see some of the scar damage.
okay.
But that's the one where you're like behind the eyes, the tissue kind of swells.
Okay.
And so for whatever reason, I had never known I had it until COVID sent it off. And so I had about a year and a half where I had like trouble to go outside and see sunlight.
Oh,
Like driving was a little difficult because I'd
mhm,
have to wear sunglasses and the lights in the restaurant, like in the
mhm.
kitchen, were too bright
Yeah.
for work. So I looked like I was like crying consistently. So thanks to that, you know, most of the time I was so weak and like in pain, I just slept most of the time. So I actually quit drinking for a large part of a year. And
There we go.
it actually helped clear up a lot.
You, you know what? Even just
Yeah.
mentally, right?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying being sober
Yeah.
more than I ever enjoyed looking forward to having a drink. And it's been hard, right? Because being a substance abuse user for 25 years, anything happens, how do I escape, right? Oh, well, I've had a rough day. I'm going to go have a drink. And one drink turns into so many.
Mhm.
And I had a chef friend of mine who brought up a quote where it was, if I have half a bottle of beer, I'm going to have 6 bottles of cocaine, right? It's never, there's never any limit, right? And there's no
Yeah.
discipline behind it, right? But every time something go wrong, I'm going to hit a drink, I'm going to hit a drink, I'm going to hit a drink. And having to actually deal with the emotion and reality in its raw form was a lot. It was a lot, man. It was not easy to go through, right? Feeling the feelings that I'd never felt before, right? Inside my body. Now I'm becoming more aware of my body. I'm becoming more aware of my space.
Um, so I actually, after that, um, I did go to a therapist later. And fun side story, I hate therapy, but I'm doing it. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it. If you don't hate it, you're not doing it right, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You don't realize how shut off or like that wall that you put up in front of you, and all that stuff comes out, and you're like, why the hell am I crying on a therapist Zoom call?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I guess there's something in there. And yeah, no, I have that same propensity to excess. I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's it, right? It could never just be one drink. It had to be a bottle. It could never just be going out with friends for an hour. I had to drive home obliterated at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Never any control, right? That was the problem. I didn't have self-control.
yeah,
And I don't ever think, I think I'm doing better with some self-control. I think there's still a lot of compulsiveness in me. And I think, still again, the drive to want to not just do something just to do it, but want to give it everything I have. I've just thrown it into more constructive things, right?
yeah,
Youth hockey. There's some baseball stuff, making sure that I keep the house as clean as possible for my wife. I can take as many chores from her as possible. I can apply myself in the job I have now as much as possible to make sure that she doesn't feel any stress. So if she doesn't sell any houses, because she's in real estate now, right? So if she sells a house, that's a bonus. If she doesn't sell, we're still okay, right? So I can put myself into those things that are more constructive and still not really maintaining work-life balance. I'm getting a hold of that, but at least it's constructive.
yeah. Well, I wonder too, I I wonder how many people who do things well have that in them too. That drive to do the extra. Because, some of the ways that I started wine always made me think it was a little obsessive. I could never just be a server on the floor selling some wines, be okay with that.
Yeah,
I don't know why. So many people can just do that, show up, work, go home, and
that's what Sid does. She has the ability to separate that so well, right?
yeah.
Now she's doing work, and then the next thing she's not. I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't.
Maybe some people just can't,
Yeah,
maybe, or maybe that's, you know, the grass always looks greener, but I wonder, if I could help play back life and choose the other path where I could just take it and leave it. I wonder how, I think if I had my mind, I think I'd be bored, you know,
yeah, yeah.
or maybe that's the story I choose to tell myself because it makes me feel happy.
I never finished high school, right? I didn't do that well through
I
high
didn't,
school.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got my GD once I got to the States when I was traveling on the H-2B visa.
Hmm.
I was in Arizona. I was in Cottonwood working for the Enchantment in Sedona, and had some extra time, and just went and got my GD. But yeah, I couldn't because even in South Africa, the school systems are not catered towards boys particularly, right? And the energy of boys.
Hmm.
Um, but there's also that structure of this is what you've been told, this is what you have to do. You can't encourage free thinking and then try and close everybody in a box
Yeah.
of learning how to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like
I think I'm picking up on what you say.
yeah, I try to do that with my boys. Right, I'm always trying to teach them stuff, and I'm trying to teach them to be obedient. But in the same sense, I'm still trying to teach them to be free thinkers. And there a lot of times where I need to understand that there comes a point where I need to stop telling them what to do and let them figure it out themselves. And that's not what the school systems, even in South Africa, are. Right, you get told what to do, you shut your mouth and you do what you're told, whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's great or not. It just doesn't encourage as much free thinking as I think everybody wants it to encourage. Right, it's very systematic.
Are you, I'm just taking a shot in the dark based on how I am. Do you have issues when you aren't the person in control of things, schedules,
Ye-
timetables?
Not always, right? Not always. It depends, though. If it just depends. Right? It really does. But it is, for the most part, if I don't have my hands around it, I feel like I'm out of control.
Yeah. See, that drives
Yeah,
me crazy.
yeah. It's going to be interesting when Jameson starts driving in a couple of years, being able to sit in the driver's seat with a 16-year-old and let him learn how to drive, right?
Yes.
And not have pedals under my feet.
I don't know if you're religious, but you will be soon. Where
Yeah.
do you think you would have ended up without your family?
I don't know. Probably
Yeah.
dead. To be quite honest, right? If I had chosen to not stop drinking, I honestly don't think I would still be here.
Yeah.
I would have.
I asked because I think the same thing about my wife,
Mhm.
honestly.
I would have either had liver failure. I would have probably, with the amount of stuff they put in cocaine now, fentanyl, I would have probably done too much. That could have happened. Um, Drinking and driving, I could have been in a wreck. I could have killed someone else and been in prison. Like there's so many different things that I think would have happened for sure. So very fortunate, I think, to have learned my lessons and actually learned from them, or trying to learn from them anyway.
Well, it is really, really refreshing, and it's really, I think, uplifting, at least in my life, to know how much one person can really move the needle.
Hmm.
Like Finding Game just came out of nowhere, and thank God. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes feel like the best things in life you don't control or choose; it just kind of happen to you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard to relinquish control a lot of the time. I think as a parent, it's definitely a lot harder to relinquish control over your kids. There's definitely a responsibility to make sure that they're fed and clothed and stay alive um, as they're growing up, and try my best to teach them to be at least the humans that I think would be beneficial in society and be kind. But at the end of the day, it's also still up to them what kind of humans they want to be, right? And again, it's you can't encourage free thinking and then be real rigid in structure. Sid and I are trying our hardest to practice active listening with the boys, at least for them to know that there is that process where they are heard, they are humans, right? I think it's not until later when most parents understand that their kids are humans, right? Initially, they're just kids. Same thing. Sit down, shut up, do what you're told.
Well, I mean, that's huge. In all honesty, my parents, for all the good they did, they were very closed off, very kind of standoffish, be quiet, stay in the corner,
Mm-hmm.
do what you're told. And me and them are in a good spot now, but a lot of therapy is just like unpacking what did that do?
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
just there's just a little kid that needed to talk to someone. It's nice to hear, some people are out there doing that.
I mean, I think my dad did it well with us. I just don't think he really knew how to navigate a lot of the other emotional stuff. He had all his own things going on, right? He was a single parent. He had 4 kids,
Yeah.
struggling with money, third world country. And then there are a lot of things as things happen now in my adulthood with my kids. And I look back at the way he reacted versus the way I reacted. And I'm like, that man had to have had so much more strength than I had to allow me to go through what I went through for my lessons, right? That were going
Mm.
to be beneficial for me, um, rather than trying to control the situation and trying to control me. And
Well, hey Shane, it was good talking to you.
yeah, you too,
Yeah.
Andrew. You too.
I'm really glad to catch up. I'm really glad to hear you're doing well,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
And if you want, we can call again and chat again, like anytime. I think it'll be good.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I know that the whole point of everything that you're trying to do here is you're trying to see if people can actually still work in the restaurant industry and be happy and have work life balance, right? And I think a lot of factors for sure, a lot of factors.
Sure.
But I think it's possible. I think it's possible, but I think you have to have the right
right mix, maybe, or
People are mature enough. I don't know. It's just a whole, you know, you're trying to fit pirates into suits, right?
yeah.
Trying to
I
make
mean,
pirates sit at a computer.
what do they say in if you don't want to slip, don't go somewhere slippery, or, you know. I wonder how
Yeah.
much of my life got fixed not working in a bar where they're lax about shift drinks. Just
Yes.
doing that alone, like 90% of my problems went away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, man. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Working in restaurants is strange. And that's why, you know, that's all I've ever done for the last 20 years. So I've seen some people that have done some really amazing things, and I've seen some people that I think were in way worse positions than you, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me.
And that's all, I guess, choice, right? Just
Yeah.
every crossroad, you got to make a decision what's best for you or not.
I wish I could go back in time, like 20 years, and have like 1 hour to talk to myself.
Yeah.
Like, look here. You're gonna think this is fun, but you're not going to enjoy this. Just think about what you're doing. But we don't get to split test life.
No.
Um,
Cool.
I do want to ask if there's one thing you could change, what would you have changed? Maybe nothing, but you never know.
I mean, drinking a lot was definitely a problem. Not learning how to manage my emotions sooner was a problem. So if I could drink less and be more self-aware, I think would have helped a lot more along the way.
Mhm.
If I could have gotten out of my own way, I think I would have been just fine.
Yeah, we are all existing in a prison that we built ourselves. So,
Yeah.
um, I am going to give you a call at some point because I want to talk more. But
Cool.
thanks for being one of the first guests, and man, it was awesome. I really wish if you ever go back into restaurants, please let me know because I will tell
Yeah.
you to go to your restaurant after you get the support you need. Because
There we go.
I
Yeah.
still think about the burger at Farol. Just so you know.
I think if I ever do, I am pretty excited to go be a dishwasher. I think I'm going to put together my playlist, get my headphones, and just find a way to sling dishes and just smile.
I was never happier than when I was bar back.
Yeah.
I still remember the first night I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Hey,
Cool.
I'll talk to you soon.
Good to chat to you, Andrew.
Love you, brother.
Sweet. Cheers.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. If you enjoyed this today, please leave a review. Even just one moment to like the podcast really helps other people discover our show. Hopefully people that need to hear this message find us. And thank you again, everyone who listens. You are my people. Keep rocking on. Have a great service. Please come check us back. We send out new episodes every Tuesday. Rock on. Cheers.